Welcome to 50 Shades of Shilamida, the podcast where nothing is off limits. As a multidimensional sovereign mom, partner, CEO, serial entrepreneur, speaker, and best-selling author, I am on a mission to help more women and men become fully embodied in their sovereignty and power so they can live their truth, speak it unapologetically, and live a life free from the matrix. Each week, I will bring you episodes that will awaken you, inspire you to think outside of the box, and step into the leader that you know that you are. The world needs more people who are walking their talk and unafraid to stand in their truth, and I'm here as your guide to help you do just that.
Today, I want to talk to you about spiritual awakenings because you have to understand I've been an entrepreneur since I was 21 years old. And when I first became an entrepreneur, I didn't know much about business. I saw an opportunity and I just went for it. So I really did not learn about business until my late 30s, like how to become a businesswoman, because along with becoming an entrepreneur, I was learning about personal development, and I was having my spiritual awakening. So when I was 21, one of my first business things was actually an MLM, and it was called Party Light Candles. And I would do candle parties for people. And I used to drive a VW Bug, a small Beetle. It was adorable. And my car would smell like crayons because I would be lazy, and I would leave my suitcase of stuff in the car and the candles would melt and they would give off this smell. So that was just a little nostalgia for any of my friends from the past that listen to the show. But anyway, in that party light experience, it led to other opportunities. I didn't go very far within the company, but doing the candles actually led for me to open up my first brick and mortar business, The Occasional Favor, it was called. It's not what you guys are thinking. The Occasional Favor was a wedding invitation and favor company. I also did headpieces and accessories for brides. And that was a lot of fun. That was an interesting time in my life where I first became a boss and I was able to employ my sorority sisters. And it was all because I said yes to the Party Light experience, because I had a display at a Curves for Women. I was working part-time managing a gym for women, and I had a candle display, and some lady asked me if I did bridal favors. And I said, sure, why not? Because I was always a yes person. I'm always the type of person that just wants to try things. And I never feel like I can't do anything. So I said yes. And she came back the next day and she said, my husband was really looking for someone with more experience. And I was like, but your husband's lost that he didn't even give me a shot. And so she came back the next day and she said, my husband loved that response and he wants to give you a shot. And so he did. And I opened up my own business and it was great. And in the whole Party Light experience, what had happened for me is I also went to you are getting yourself into a personal development situation, whether you want to or not. That's what's about to happen, because in these companies, you have people who are so successful because people know how to goal set. They know how to make vision boards. They know how to tap into the vision. And so you have these leaders who are teaching other people how to do that. So it's the same thing for those of you that are fans of Hay House. And for some of you, you may be like, what are you talking about right now? I don't know what you're talking about altogether. But this conversation is going to be all about spiritual awakenings today and getting comfortable with the uncomfortable and the unknown. Because I've always been, and now I say, quote unquote, weird. I don't think I'm weird anymore. I actually think I'm very normal. But growing up, I thought that I was very weird. I thought that something was very wrong with me because I thought things that other people didn't think, and I knew things that other people didn't know. And I grew up in an immigrant family. So the things that I thought and I knew they just didn't make sense. And I was very drawn to anything that was witch related, or I was drawn to places that had little shops with crystals and incense. And I didn't grow up with any of that kind of stuff. So it was all very foreign to me. And in my younger years, in my college years, I remember I was so in need of something. I was trying to seek out something, and I just didn't quite know what it was. I grew up in a family that wasn't very religious. So my grandparents lived through the Holocaust, so they were actually very religious. But my parents were not. They were like the breakaway Jews. They would participate where they had to, but they didn't to sit in the house. And whenever it was presented to me, it was always in a different language that I always had a really hard time understanding. And when I was in high school, I had a girlfriend who was not allowed to come out and play until she went to church. So I would go to church a lot with her so that I could just play with her right after. And I remember loving the experience of being in church. So when my father got diagnosed with cancer when I was 17 years old, I didn't really have anywhere to turn to. I didn't really know what to do with that information and how to handle and process that information. And so I'm super grateful because years later, I actually found Kabbalah. But before I found Kabbalah, I spent many years of my life smoking pot and getting into debates with people over, is the Bible real? What if it was a bunch of people sitting around on acid that created the Bible? I had some of the craziest thoughts, but I had the crazy thoughts because I just didn't really know. And I felt very alone in my world because either my friends were super religious where they went to church, but I didn't really know anybody or anything other than that. And it led me down a bad path of drugs and alcohol and all the things because I didn't know where else to turn to until I found Kabbalah. And Kabbalah was a fluke, right? Just like everything, nothing is a fluke. But when Kabbalah came into my life, I was getting my vagina hair lasered, and a friend had a red string around. Well, she wasn't a friend at the time. She was a stranger, but she had a red string around her hand. And I said, why are you wearing that? In the Jewish religion, we used to wear those as babies. And she was like, yeah, I'm Jewish and I got this from Kabbalah.com. And it's the same thing. It's for protection. And so this girl and I got to talking, and we actually became really good friends after that and had a lot of really amazing experiences together. And she introduced me to the Kabbalah Center. So I remember going home, and I was 23 at the time. I lived with a roommate. I was in her room on her computer, and Kabbalah.com was like a one-pager. We're going back like 20 years. And on this one page, the first paragraph said something like, do you feel like you're different than other people? Do you believe that you've lived this life before? Do you feel like you don't belong? And I was like, wow, like it was like nailing it on the head with me. It was explaining exactly what I was feeling. Talk about pain points. And so it just really drew me in, and I decided to go to an event that they were having. And I, of course, loved it. I loved the community. I loved everything about it. And I spent the next couple of years really studying Kabbalah, and it helped me so much because the basis of Kabbalah is becoming the best version of yourself and really learning about the ego and when is the ego being at play, or when is it you standing in your own way? It's a very interesting concept. And I remember when I was first studying Kabbalah, let's see, was social media even around? It had to be around. I don't know like the capacity of it, but I remember sharing and nobody would like my stuff at all. And people just couldn't wrap themselves around it. And now I still teach off of the basic principles of Kabbalah because that's the basis of me becoming a good person. Like prior to Kabbalah, when my father had was diagnosed with cancer. My mom was actually diagnosed with cancer shortly thereafter. And I was in like a whirlwind. I was angry. I was scared. I didn't know how to take out my emotions. So I was in a sorority. I was not a nice person. I loved hazing. It was a release for me. And if you go back and you talk to people from my life then, they will have a very different perception of me now. I was telling my kids last night the story of that I think I told on this show last week about my egg white and cheese on a English muffin with a coffee that was light and sweet from Dunkin' Donuts. And one of my bonus kids was like, I cannot even believe that you would have ever eaten something like that. But it's like we change and we evolve as human beings, and the more spiritually connected that we are, we're allowed to do that more free, because we realize that we don't come here to be judged by other people. We come here to really live our life, and we get to live our life and we get to be free. But we don't believe that because we feel imprisoned to society and the way that society wants us to be. So I am super grateful for the path that I took and for all of the lessons that I've learned along the way, because it's allowed me to have this freedom and to just speak about all the things that I want to speak about, because it's important for people to know, because people get to watch my success now. Actually, this particular friend, interestingly enough, she messaged me out of nowhere and she said to me, why do you always have to post about your successes? And I have to post about my successes because I want to show other people how easy it can be done when you are in alignment with who you are here to be. Like this whole Pure Haven experience, for those of you that don't know, I've had this explosive experience overnight with a direct marketing company because I decided to become an affiliate. And the reason being is because there's all this personal development work that not only I still have to do in my life, but that I have to teach other people how to do. And so I've been put in this situation where I get to be in front of all these people and we get to do all of this work together, which is really cool. Because my word for this year was connection, and that's exactly what I'm receiving. I'm receiving all of this beautiful connection, and we get to expand and grow together. And it's just so much fun to do it together. But people really need to get out of their way. And I'm so proud of myself that I was able to do that, because Kabbalah was the first thing for me. And I remember after I opened up that first business when I was 21, the occasional favor, I was also still working part-time at the gym so that I would have my free membership. And at one point I wanted to buy the gym, the Curves for Women, and I didn't have the money, and my family didn't trust me enough because I was, in their eyes, very irresponsible, but in my eyes, I was just exploring life. And so there was an opportunity for me to purchase a men's version of the female franchise that I was working for. And so I went down there with my boss and we left, and she was like, no way, I'm not buying that. They don't really know what they're doing. So it was obvious to me that they were trying to copycat the business that I was working for, but they didn't quite have it. And so I called the owner of that franchise company and I told him that he needed to know what I knew, and that if he were to give me a job, that I would come show him everything that I knew. And so he did. He made me an offer. And then I ended up going and selling franchises for probably like 18 months of my life, I think. That experience was, and wow, was that such a whirlwind, because number one, it showed me that I had excellent experience in sales, which I knew already because I had started telemarketing when I was 9 years old. That's a story for a different day. But in that franchise world, I ended up selling 150 franchises in 14 months. But I also created a lot of limited belief stories in that experience. And in that experience, I also ended up getting fired, which was a blow to my ego. Wow, that's a lot of my spiritual work had to stem from that situation. Not only did I get fired, I got fired before a bonus, and I would spend my bonuses before I even made the money, because it was my first taste of making real money. I was making six figures at that time, and my life expanded. My roommate at the time yelled at me one day because I was still buying fake Coach bags, and you could actually afford to buy real Coach bags. And so I went from that whole experience to food stamps in a quick second as well. So it was interesting. My 20s, I had to live through a lot of my ancestral stuff, and I had to go from making money to being broke and living through that whole rock bottom experience. But there was so much growth and things that happened in that experience, and trying to really lean into Kabbalah and figuring out how I could be a kinder person, a nicer person, a better human being, right? Because I was not operating in my best self because I really wasn't sure of how to deal with the things that were happening in my life. And my dad ended up passing away, and before he passed away, I had found the Americana Leadership College, and the Americana Leadership College helped me to connect to my guides. So we all come to this world. We create a contract before we ever get here. I forget where I learned that from, but most of the things that I've learned along the way have said these same things, that we have lived past lives and that we create a contract before we come here. And we choose our mother and we choose our father because those people are going to lead us on the path that we need to accomplish the contract that we're here to accomplish. So when you really learn and understand the whole contract thing, it's like you stop looking at what other people are doing because you realize that I'm not here to accomplish with what they are doing. So if I'm watching what they're doing and trying to do the same thing, it's not going to work for me because that's not what I'm here to accomplish. But as a society, we create this cookie cutter effect of the people that we want to create. And then we say that you're supposed to work 9 to 5 or 7 to 7 or whatever the shift is. And we create this paradigm, but it's really not supposed to be that. We're really supposed to come here to be our own sovereign individuals, and we're supposed to learn along the way, but we get stuck and we're not able to open ourselves up to this learning because it seems so far-fetched and so woo. So I was introduced to The Secret at some point in my 20s, and then when I was already a mom. My son was about 9 months old. I got introduced to a new friend, and she really drove in The Secret with me. She came to my house. She heard me speak about my circumstances, and she told me that I was a really negative person. And it was one of the most powerful things that ever happened in my life because my ego was hurt, but I was listening to what she was saying for the very first time in my life. And she was talking to me about the law of attraction and The Secret. And she was like, haven't you ever heard of these things before? And the truth is that I heard. Not only did I hear, I had the tools. The law of attraction was sitting on my bookshelf, right, from the beginning of my story. And then The Secret was actually sitting in my dining room on CD. And my excuses at the time was that I don't like to read and I don't like to listen. And then she's like, for crying out loud, get the DVD. And my excuse was probably I don't have the money because at that point I was already on food stamps. But she just sat there with me that day and she literally changed my whole entire life because when she left, I went and I got that book off the bookshelf and I blew off the dust. And I think I read it within 48 hours for the person that didn't read. Ordered The Secret. I immediately bought a journal. I started being grateful with my son because my life was so rock bottom. And in her words of telling me how negative I was, it made me realize that I need to do something different because if I don't do something different, I'm just going to keep spiraling. And that's what I did. I started being grateful, and it was really hard for me at first because I was living in a situation that I wasn't happy with. I was in a 2-bedroom apartment. I was in a relationship that was in turmoil. It was not a good situation. I did not have money. I was having a hard time producing money, and I just didn't know what to do with my life. And so The Secret says that you have to ask, and then you have to believe in order to receive. So what I realized in the beginning is I just didn't know what to ask for. I was so busy looking at other people's lives, wondering why I didn't have what they had. But what I didn't realize is that I wasn't asking for what I wanted, but I didn't really know what I wanted, because I grew up thinking that rich people were bad and money was bad and that somehow it was all bad. But deep down, I desired luxurious things. I loved traveling. My parents did travel with us at least once or twice a year. So I loved travel. I desired to travel. And so I made my first vision board. And when I made my first vision board, I put all of this travel on there, and I really wanted to write a book. I was a really good storyteller even back then. And I knew that I just wanted to write a book, and I wanted my first book to be called 30 Careers by 30 Years Old, because at that time I already had 30 careers. And I decided to go back to acupuncture school when I was 30 years old, before acupuncture school. So the way the story goes is, after the secret, I asked the universe, I said, universe, I want to be put on my path. I want to live in my purpose. Show me what I could do that will help me live in my purpose, where I will become credible enough for when I write my book and I get on stage to speak, people actually want to hear what I have to say. Because at the time, I wanted to be a motivational speaker, but who was I motivating? I was 250 pounds. I was a hot mess. I wasn't making any money. I was living on food stamps. I was trying to cheat the system, because you can't possibly live on the system with the way the system is set up. It was a horrible situation. And so I decided to leave my ex, which was one of the hardest things that I could have ever done. My son was about 18 months old, and I decided to leave my ex and to move on for that relationship. So for those of you that are listening that are in bad relationship, I get it. I know what it's like to not want to leave your child's other parent. I know that it seems safer or better for the kids in order for you to stay, but it's not. What we need to remember is that we signed up for this experience, and as hard as it is to go through a divorce or a breakup or any one of those things, it's just the reality of our existence, and that's the part of the contract. And as hard as that was for me, it was the best thing that I could have ever done, because I look at my ex now, and our lives are not aligned at all. And I look at my life, and my life is exactly aligned with what my desires were. As soon as I figured out what my desires were, I realized that the thing that separates me now than the person I was when I was learning about all of this stuff, my son now just turned 15. So when he was about 9 months old was when the catalyst of the awakenings really started to happen for me. And the biggest shift was the knowing, the awakening, the awareness, like the awareness of the negative thoughts, the awareness of this situation isn't happening to me, it's happening for me, the awareness of, oh my gosh, if I actually am grateful for these things and I desire them, that they do come true for me every single time. And it turned into this magical thing. And I started to listen. I actually started to ask for messages, and I started listening to them. And every time I saw them, I would go for it. And that is also what separates me from most, is that I just go for the thing because I'm not afraid of failing. I'm afraid of not trying. It's like I was brought here on this planet to try all of these things, to experience all of these things. And we don't realize, people look at my life and they wonder, how do I have time for all of these things? But time is just an illusion, right? Time traps us. And before COVID started, I was trapped in the, I need it and I need it now. Need it and I need it now. It was in such a rush to have everything in this exact moment. And what I learned over the last 2 years is just to live in the now and to enjoy the now, because we just don't know how much time we have left here. And so I wasn't able to enjoy the moment. And when I surrendered into that, it just became so incredible for me. So spiritual awakening and journey has been happening to me for a very long time. I've been I guess I've been fully awakened since I was probably 23. I would say that's really when I started to understand what was happening and I really fully started to trust. I didn't really trust until recently. I'd say over 40 is when it really happened. But this has been a solid 20 something years of my life. If you are in the midst of a spiritual awakening and you feel alone and you feel scared, I want you to know that you're not alone. We've all gone through the things that you are going through. It seems scary because the world that is around you right now doesn't seem very safe because the people that you surround yourself with may not have the same kind of knowing yet. But part of our journey here is to help to awaken other people. And the more that we awaken ourselves, the more we become leaders to lead others. And I've talked about this before. We didn't all come here to stand on stage and speak before 20,000 people, but just having one conversation with your neighbor, your post worker, the person at the grocery store checkout, just one conversation can shift and change someone's life. And that is from your experience in this life. So every time we go through a life experience, every time we overcome something, every time we awaken to something, we are able to share that for someone else. And our light is enough to open up and ignite the light in somebody else. And it's just so powerful when you are in this world. And if you are struggling right now, there's so many ways to get yourself out of the struggle. But the first thing is really desiring that and to stop looking at other people and wondering why you don't have what they have, but to sit down and really tap into your desires. So I invite you to do that today, to grab a journal after you finish listening to this, if you're listening to this on the replay, and I want you to start tapping into your desire. What do you love the most in this world? What do you desire to see? Where do you want to be? Do you want to be in front of the ocean? Do you want to be in the mountains? Close your eyes for a minute, not if you're driving your car, but if you're sitting where you are, I want you to close your eyes. I want you to put your hand over your heart and one over your belly. Let's take a deep inhale in together. And exhale it out completely. And take an inhale in together. Exhale it out. Last time, as you exhale, just allow for yourself to go dream. Take yourself in front of the ocean. Sit on the sand. Feel the sun on your face. Or maybe it's by a lake where the wind is blowing on your face. Where is it that your desires lead you to? Do you want to be walking barefoot along the way? Do you want to hear the sounds of birds? What is it that you desire? Is it a home on the ocean, or maybe is it a switch in career? Are you looking for your soulmate? Are you seeking fulfillment? Are you looking to write a book? What is it that would just make you light up like a firecracker? If I told you that anything that you desired could be yours and should be yours, would you be able to tap into that desire? Are you able to let yourself dream that big to get you out of the circumstance of where you are in right now? Remember, when I lived in a 2-bedroom apartment in Fair Lawn, New Jersey, on food stamps, not knowing when I was going to buy my next meal, I had no idea that the universe was going to provide me with the most beautiful, luxurious, lavish lifestyle. But it's what I desired. I desired a man to take me away to these beautiful places. I desired shopping in fun boutiques. I desired eating amazing food. I desired flying in first class. And everything that I've desired, I've allowed for myself to receive, because we ask and then we don't open ourselves up to receive. We just allow for it to just pass us moment by moment because we're so scared, we're so stuck, and we don't know when to go for it because we are afraid of going for it, because what if we fail? What if we're not good enough? What if the doomsday happens? But the truth is that it's not the way it's going to work out. even if you fail, there's always a lesson to learn. And in the lesson, there's always expansion and growth. And if you allow yourself to expand and grow, you allow for yourself to open yourself up to receive the messages that are going to get you to every one of your desires. My life has literally turned into a vacation. That's what I feel like it is. Even when I'm in dreary New Jersey, I get to take baths 2 or 3 times a day because that's the way that I choose to live my life. Nobody tells me when I have to wake up, what I have to do, where I have to go, who I have to work for. I get to make those decisions every single day for myself. And I have proven to you guys time and time again that anything I can do, you can do too. So it's not because I'm some miracle person. Recently, I've been called a celebrity many times. Oh, she could do it because she's a celebrity. 2 months ago, I was a nobody. And now all of a sudden in those same people's eyes, I'm a celebrity and that's what I'm doing, why I'm doing. But we are all capable of doing what I am doing. Believe in yourself and you have to go out there and you have to try. This world, this life, it's all about trial and error. And the more that you allow for yourself and you trust that you have this whole band of guides and angels and support and love by the universe to accomplish all of these things, the easier life becomes, the more calm you become, and life just becomes one big vacation. I love you guys. I'm so grateful to all of you that listen to me, and I'm going to see you here next Thursday. Have a great day.
Thank you so much for listening to 50 Shades of Shilamida. Your support means the world to me. And most of all, I love knowing that these episodes are creating massive impact in your life. Love the episode, share the love on social media and tag me at 50 Shades of Shilamida and let us know your favorite takeaway. Subscribe, rate, and review the podcast on Apple Podcasts as it helps us get into the ears and hearts of more listeners who need our message and be entered to win some incredible prizes. I am so grateful for you. Thank you.